we're going to move along to a couple of the new rules that have come out relatively. I want to say some of the stuff was officially voted on today, but a lot of the information about it has come out the last couple of days. So I want to talk about the three biggest ones. I want to say they're the only ones. I might be wrong on that. So the first one is the new challenge rule. We're going from like order of like most liked to least liked. So the new challenge rules are, oh my gosh, there's nothing behind me. Thank Monk's Eye. That's what he's referring to. It's quite the profile picture, by the way. But anyway, new challenge rule for the upcoming season. Basically, you can challenge. If you get it right, you get an extra challenge back. It's kind of cool. What's funny is the Lions were the ones who I think submitted this rule or like were like super behind this rule. Ironically enough, because the Lions were absolutely putrid last year in challenges. Like I don't know if they got a single challenge right. Like I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong on this. I'm pretty sure they got like every challenge wrong, like every single one. I remember every time doing those live watch along and play by play reaction streams that it was always just like, oh, they're challenging. What are they? Okay, well, but I think it's kind of a cool rule. It's sort of similar to like in baseball. In baseball, when you challenge, you don't lose your challenge. You like keep it. I kind of like it because it gives more of an incentive to challenge as opposed to just sit and because if you challenge, you might think, oh, I might lose my challenge. In this case, you can basically keep it, but obviously you'll still lose the timeout if you don't get it right. But it's kind of a cool rule, I guess. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. Next rule though is actually we'll reverse this because the next one I have on the list is actually the worst one, I think. Next one is this new kickoff rule. So I don't know why they want to change things that don't need to be changed. Like people like, oh, there's not enough people returning it. It's like, well, teams are making a calculation, right? So like there's no reason to just take the ball out if it's going into your end zone when you can guarantee 25 yards. So you can do all you want. Like it just doesn't make any sense why you would just like that's just how it is. It's like that you don't change like the I don't know, the punting rule because teams are always punt. It just doesn't make any sense to me why like they're doing the thing because it makes sense strategically. And to just sort of evaporate that with these new rules, I just am not a fan of. So basically, in case you're living under a bridge or under a rock, maybe you're living under a bridge. I don't know. People have all kinds of the internet is free, basically, practically. Anyway. So it's from the XFL, basically. So if you want to actually see it in practice, just look up XFL kickoffs. I'm sure they've become suddenly the most viewed highlights on XFL YouTube channels and such. But it was passed 29-3. So very well, a lot like teams were pretty much unanimous on this. But here we go. Kickers will continue to kick from the 35-yard line, but the other 10 players on the kickoff team will line up at the receiving team's 40-yard line. At least 9 members of the return team will line up in a setup zone between the 35 and 30-yard lines. Up to 2 returners can line up in the landing zone between the goal line and 20-yard line. No one other than the kicker and the returner can move until the ball hits the ground or hits a player inside the landing zone. Touchbacks will be marked at the 30-yard line, and no fair catches will be allowed. In the event a team wants to attempt an onside kick, it will have to inform the officials of its intent and would then be allowed to use the NFL's traditional formation. No surprise onside kicks will be allowed. And then further, I don't know if it states it in this ESPN article that I'm reading here, you can only onside kick in the fourth quarter. Why? Like, why do any of this? Like, you want to increase teams taking the ball out on a kickoff. I don't even know why. Like, what is the point? Like, are you suddenly going to get more kick returns because of this? Like, maybe. I don't know. Like, teams are. It's like if I'm a kicking team, well, because the touchback is now at the 30-yard line, I believe, instead of the 25. If I'm the kicking team, well, shoot, I'm doing the same thing I'm doing before. I'm just going to launch the ball to the back of the end zone for a touchback. And then if it ends up where it's just sort of in the end zone or maybe at the 1-yard line, okay, well, like, try to get to the 30. You're probably not going to get there. There have been videos of like, oh, well, look, in the XFL, a lot of it's like, yeah, it's the XFL, man. I don't think it's going to play out the exact same way here in the NFL. And further, I think the most egregious thing is this just totally eliminates any level of strategy on either side, right? You can't have those kind of squib kicks really anymore. You can't have the fake or the surprise onside kicks like you used to be able to do. And then on the other side of it, you can't, strategically choose to take the ball out, eat away a couple of seconds on the clock, and then allow your offense to try to close out the game. You can't just take the yardage that you can get or vice versa. Like it just forces you into one way of doing things, which is return the ball essentially, or just let the kicker just send it back to the back of the end zone, and then you're just back where apparently we were at. I don't understand why they'll do this, where they'll just make this kind of a rule change, this kind of really big rule change. I mean, NFL kickoffs have been pretty much a staple, at least for most of my life, where, there have been a few rule changes, I want to say, maybe in some of the yardage or where the touchback is. But for the most part, the actual form of the kickoff has been pretty much the same. So I'm not a big fan of this. I'm willing to be won over. Maybe I'll be won over by the end of next season, but I really don't get how 29 out of the 32 teams are okay with this. I really don't. So I got nothing more. I don't. I'm not a fan of it. But the final thing that I'm really not a fan of is the banning of the hip drop tackle. Apparently, it'll also be a 15-yard penalty if you do engage in the hip drop tackle, and an automatic first down. So I've seen a lot of highlights of the hip drop tackle, and I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure if I'm being gaslit or if like the NFL is like, that just looks like a tackle. I mean, is it dangerous? Maybe. I think tackling someone is pretty dangerous. Like what is the non-dangerous tackle exactly? Like, imagine for a second you were like, okay, what's the least dangerous tackle? I'm gonna go do that to my grandma. It's like there's no non-dangerous tackle, let alone a tackle in which you have 200 300-pound football players bringing you to the ground. Like it is dangerous, and there is going to be risk of injury, and this whole thing of like, oh, we're just trying to make the game safer. It's like, how does this make the game safer? Because you might have some less injuries from this particular. I don't know how many injuries came from this tackle. And even if you do, it's like, well, then what is the defense supposed to do? How are you supposed to play defense? What is the proper form of tackling? And practically speaking, how are you able to do that proper form of tackling in every single position, right? And that means when a guy is in front of you, when you're running to catch a guy, when a guy is on the run going side to side, right? Like, what is the right way to bring a guy down? Like, you hold on to him, and then, you might lose your footing, or, you might intentionally lose your footing to bring him down. And guys will get hurt. Guys always get hurt no matter how you tackle them. It's a dangerous game. That's why they get paid the big bucks. I mean, like, I'm not trying to sound crude, but it's a risky game, and they get paid millions of dollars to play it, especially at the skill position, especially with the quarterbacks and the running backs and the wide receivers. I know maybe some running back people are going to be like, oh, actually, the running backs aren't paid that much. It's like, look, and maybe not relative to other players, but if my contract for work said like $15 million over 3 years, yeah, I think I'd be okay. I think I can make do. All right, but anyway, I just overall, these new rule changes, I'm just kind of bleh. Like the challenge rule is kind of cool, I guess. But I don't like the new kickoff. I don't like the hip drop ban. I I don't know what they're trying to do. And I actually heard on a different sports show this morning is like, what if this is like a psyop where they're just gonna see how many things they can do to change football to see how they can get people to stop watching it. And I'm convinced at this point, short of like banning tackling outright, of just like making it two-hand touch, and even then, I'm not totally like I don't think there it would have to not be football, basically. Like you would have to turn it into something else. If it's football, if it's recognizably football with running and passing and kicking and all sorts of that, people are going to watch. NFL is just king. It's just like that. So, hey there, what you just watched was actually a clip from a larger show that we do every Tuesday night. What are you doing Tuesday night? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button so that you don't miss out on any more of our weekly shows every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you there.